The Pan American Health Organization warned about an increase of dengue fever in the American continent. In Palestine, at least 12 civilians were killed and dozens wounded after an Israeli bombardment Khan Yunis. And in Chad, thousands of Sudanese refugees are affected by the lack of water, food, and the spread of disease. Hello and welcome to From the House. I am Irma Shelton, and from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. The Pan American Health Organization, in his last briefing, warned about an increase of dengue fever in the American continent. According to the organization, the most affected countries are Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina, with 92% of the cases and 87% of the deaths. It was found that the continent has 3 times more cases of dengue fever than in 2023, with a total of 4.5 million infections. Health authorities detail that the spread of the mosquito is due to the warm and rainy weather of the season. They recommend taking precautions to control its transmission and avoid death. On Thursday, Haitians reiterate their appeal for unity to end the violence, denouncing that the called political transition since the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry is still pending.
The Presidential Council must be set up to calm the situation. If the people's demands are not met in 2 months' time, there will be no way out. What is happening to us has nothing to do with the country's interests. The country benefits in no way from this demagogy. On the contrary, it would have been preferable to come as close as possible to the spirit of the 1987 Constitution, which stipulates that the President of the Court of Cassation or his Vice President must be elected.
On Friday, it was announced that Judge of the United States Court for the Southern District of Florida, Robert Scola, signed the definitive dismissal of all charges against Venezuelan diplomat Ali Saab. Ali Saab, who was in prison in the United States, was released on December 20th during a United States prisoner exchange. Precisely, Saab stated after his return that he was the victim of a kidnapping that was seeking to make the Venezuelan government collapse through the imposition of unilateral coercive measures and economic blockade. In that sense, Saab denounced that during his stay in the United States prison, he suffered various torture. On Friday, the Mexican political forum Académico Puebla Group, through statements on its website, supports the presidential elections in Venezuela on July 28th. Within the text, we highlight the following paragraph. We have supported the Barbados agreements, in the development of which the date of July 28 of this year was set for Venezuela citizens to freely decide their future by choosing the next president. It also continues, the peaceful electoral path should be the way to settle differences, fully legitimize the electoral process, and put an end to destabilizing ways that call for interventions, military or other forceful actions, and that are incompatible with the democratic path. The communique concludes, the Puebla Group calls for sovereign elections with guarantees and without economic sanctions. No one and nothing can put at risk the peaceful will of Venezuelan society to build its future with prosperity and respect. On the other hand, the Unitary Union of Journalists and Social Communication Workers of Peru, through statements, cited The process of changes in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela since the military insurgency of President Hugo Chavez tends to consolidate its independence and sovereignty against the United States imperial policy based on Monroeism. That is why it is the object of economic blockade, sanctions, embargoes, and interference in its internal affairs. In this regard, the Union also states that no electoral force is prevented from the exercise of participation, be it from the center, from the left, or from the political right. The Venezuelan people will know how to intelligently resolve in accordance with the interests of the majorities. Finally, the Peruvian organization declared, Sudpecos condemns the assassination attempt against President Nicolás Maduro by the imperial counter-revolution of the North, and will stand in solidarity with the people and with their success in the constitutionally established elections, which at the same time will be a democratic celebration for the peoples in the Latin American Great Homeland. In Venezuela, citizens participate vigorously in religious and recreational activities on the occasion of the Holy Week. Caracas, the capital, was taken by the traditions of the holiday, where children, young people, and adults share the dynamism of the festivity and enjoy the spaces. The most outstanding activities are the processions, visits to the 7 temples, obtaining the blessed palm, and typical food of the commemoration. For her part, from the Paseo de los Próceres, the mayoress of Caracas, Carmen Melendez, affirmed that the importance of the work carried out is for the welfare of the families.
We in Venezuela can now say that we are calm, that we are at peace, that we are enjoying everything that we have done in these years of resistance, but that we are moving forward.
Let's take now a short break, but remember, you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and other more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Friday, at least 9 persons were arrested in Tajikistan on suspicions of links with the terrorist attack of the Krakow City Hall in Russia on March 22. According to the Special Services of Dushanbe, the detainees allegedly have links with the terrorist groups Daesh, known as the Islamic State. The rest were made in joint operation between the security forces of Tajikistan and the Russian forces. The situation is causing concern among citizens who claim that such actions are damaging the image of their nation. All of the detainees are residents of Bacha district, a region bordering Afghanistan that has seen thousands of its citizens go to fight for the Islamic State group. The Greek Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, overcame on Thursday the motion of censure presented by the opposition that accused him of having manipulated evidence of the train accident in the municipality of Tempe. In this sense, the opposition points out that it was caused by human failure and not by failing to take precautions. Precisely, the motion was rejected by the 158 deputies of Mitsotakis New Democracy Party, which exceeded the absolute majority of 151 votes, while the entire opposition voted in favor. The leader of the Socialist Party, PAHO, Nikos Androulakis, accused the executive of acting inhumanely and disrespectfully towards the victims of the accident, which claimed 58 lives.
I have tried today first of all to the relative of the victims but also to society to describe as best I could what exactly happened in this accident and what we are going to do so that there will never be another train accident in Tempe. Ultimately, this is the demand of society to transform the power of mourning from this painful experience into a power of recovery.
In Palestine, at least 12 civilians were killed and dozens wounded after an Israeli bombardment of a house in Khan Yunis 175 days after the beginning of the genocide in Gaza Strip. In this regard, local authorities report that Israeli warplanes launched missiles at the residence of the Muammar family. Meanwhile, rescue teams transferred the wounded to the European hospital in the city of Khan Yunis. In this context, also a woman was killed and others were injured following an Israeli attack on a mosque in Jabalia, in the north of the Palestinian enclave. Since October 7th, Israel has killed 32,623 people and wounded nearly 75,000, while thousands of citizens are still missing under the rubble of the devastated Gaza Strip. In parallel, Israeli airstrike on residential areas in northern Rafah city also claimed the life of 7 Palestinians, while several were injured. According to Wafa news agency, another 7 people were killed after Israeli bombardment on the Shuhaida Sports Club in Gaza City. Health sources in the Palestinian enclave said that Israeli army killed 71 Palestinians and wounded 112 others in the last few hours. In the Netherlands, the judges of the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to take all necessary and effective measures to ensure the entry of food supplies into Gaza. The agency orders the Israeli government to allow large-scale, unimpeded aid to enter the Gaza Strip. It also again ordered Israel to prevent genocide against the Palestinian people while allowing 1 month to report on compliance with these terms. The International Court of Justice warned that civilians in the Strip not longer only face a risk of famine, but the catastrophic living conditions of the Palestinians in Gaza have worsened even further. The new measures were requested by South Africa as part of its ongoing case accusing Israel of a state-led genocide in Gaza. In Jordan, thousands of people demonstrate for the 5th night in a row near the Israeli embassy to demand an end to the genocide against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. Demonstrators gathered in front of the Al-Kaluti Mosque in Amman in favor of the Palestinian resistance in the midst of a strong security apparatus that protected the Israeli diplomatic headquarters with hundreds of policemen and armored vehicles. In this context, the demonstrators demand the Jordanian government cancel the 1994 Wadi Arab Treaty, which normalized relations with Israel. They also condemned the inaction of the Arab countries in the face of the genocide perpetrated by Israel in the Gaza Strip.
What is happening in Gaza is a bigger issue than a humanitarian issue. The problem has reached more than 32,000 people who report to Gaza and to our Arab governments, headed by the Jordanian government, a government that adopts a submissive position, a traitor position, a position of an agent of Israel. It must wake up, it must stop the Wadi Arab agreement. We must stop the gas agreement, stop the war agreement, stop the United States presence and all Western presence in Jordan.
In the United States, hundreds of demonstrators supporting the Palestinian people protested in front of the presidential Biden re-election fundraiser. The demonstrators denounced Israel's continued killing of civilians in Gaza and the United States government failure to support a lasting ceasefire in the region. Protesters chanted slogans including "Genocide Joe, House Go to Go," and "Blood is in your hands." Police officers made multiple arrests and actions were carried out to take forced control of the situation and maintain the calm inside the venue hall despite of the citizens' demands. And we have a financial break coming up, but before, we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news, coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Financial break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In chats, the organization Doctors Without Borders reported in the last week cases of hepatitis spreading through refugee camps in Eastern Chad, where more than 730,000 Sudanese who fled the extreme violence in neighboring Sudan have settled. Infections rates increased by poor sanitary conditions and a severe shortage of clean water. According to the latest report of the International Organization for Migration Agency, more than 2 million people have fled Sudan since the outbreak of the war in April 15 of 2023.
Almost 1 year since the war started again in Sudan, and it has affected more or less 25 million people. Out of them, a few millions have already fled outside the country, and there are many others that they have been internally displaced.
In this regard, the president of the humanitarian organization, Christos Christou, stated that the Sudanese refugees are asking for water, food, and dignity.
Each one of them asked the same thing that could be summarized in 3 words: water, food, and dignity. I could see myself that we do our best as MSF to supply water, and you understand that this is not the key area of expertise for a medical organization. But I was really surprised and saddened to see that in many of these places we are maybe even the only actor, or we supply the 70 or 80% of the water.
Togo citizens reject constitutional reform as a maneuver to extend current President Pierre Ganasimbe mandates. According to the new text, the presidential election system is modified and entrusted to the legislative branch, which is dominated by the Union for the Republic Party, loyal to the current head of state. The opposition warns that the modification takes away the power to elect from citizens, a reason that led to the abstention of the opposition bench during the vote. In South Africa, 45 people were killed and several injured after a bus crashed and caught fire in Limpopo province. Local media said that following the loss of control of the bus, the fall on the bridge and the subsequent fire at the mountain pass between the towns of Mokopane and Marken, several people were seriously injured. The South African Minister of Transport, Sidisiwe Shikunga, said that the only survivor of the group of pilgrims traveling from the Botswana capital to the church in the village of Moria is an 80-year-old girl who was taken to hospital. Shikunga also expressed her condolence to the families of the victims and to the people and government of Botswana, and assured that the South African authorities would repatriate the bodies. The government of Somalia announced that 80 suspected members of the Al-Shabaab terrorist group were killed during security force operations. A statement assured that the Somali Ministry of Information said that the army actions were carried out against this radical faction of the region in Modut Bakul and Middle Shabelle in the center and south of the country. According to the source, some 40 terrorists were put out of action in the Muduk region in the center of the country, where they were concentrating for a subsequent attack on the locality of Harader. The current Somali president, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, in power since 2022, has declared his commitment to eradicating the terrorist group that still control large rural areas in central and southern of Somalia. In Iceland, authorities declared a state of emergency in the south of the country after experiencing another volcanic eruption in the Reykjanes Peninsula, the fourth since last October and probably the strongest according to the Nordic country's meteorological office. Images releases show the eruption of the volcano with an aurora borealis as a backdrop. The eruption site is located in a few kilometers northeast of the coastal city of Grindavid, which has a population of approximately 3,800 inhabitants who were evacuated before the initial eruption in December 2023. Volcanic activity had decreased during the beginning of March, so some residents chose to return to their homes. Nevertheless, the authorities recently carried out a new evacuation. However, the authorities have carried out a new evacuation of about 600 people who were in the tourist resort of Laguna Azul recently. In Spain, the Civil Guard reported the deaths of at least 4 people in various incidents related to Storm Nelson. In the first event, 2 persons died in the autonomous community of the Principality of Asturias after falling into the sea and being swept away by the waves, which reached up to 7 meters high as a result of the storm. Another 2 deaths occurred near Miracle Beach in the city of Tarragona, a 16-year-old boy and a 32-year-old German tourist who drowned when they fell into the sea. In this sense, the authorities declare a preventive orange alert along the Asturian coast and urge the public to take precautions. In the United States, the Major League Baseball campaign officially began on Thursday. During the next 6 months, 30 teams will fight each other for the title. It is worth mentioning that in the opening date, 11 out of 30 organizations named Latin pitchers as starters. This being the highest number registered so far, while the Dominican Republic has 5 of them. Precisely, the Latin pitchers with the most starts of opening day are Dominican Pedro Martinez and Nicaraguan Dennis Martinez, who share the total numbers of 11 starts. And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSURenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I am Irma Scholten. Thank you for watching.